But let's welcome our first panelist, Katie Kremitzos of Biz Women Rock. Let's give her a round of applause. Coming up, Katie.
Hi.
So this is the first time I think, oh no, it's not the first time I've interviewed you, but first time I've had you on the main event stage.
Yeah, this is a different perspective.
So just some of the criteria. Each of these millennials derive a sizable income, minimum $3,000 to $4,000 a month from their online activities. That was one of our criteria to make sure that we know that they're generating what I would consider, and it's very hard online, but once you get going, the scalability is awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the just a Cliff Notes version of what is Biz Women Rock? We're all looking at the slogan, but what is it to you, and how did it start?
Biz Women Rock started as a podcast because I wanted to take the two things that I loved and I was very passionate about entrepreneurship and women, and really being able to connect with women. And podcasting was the thing at the time that we were really interested in. And so I said, I want to do Biz Women Rock as a podcast. So in February 2014, I started it as a podcast. I started it interviewing successful business women. It has since morphed into really an education channel for women to get access to information that is easily actionable that they can use to grow their businesses. But what ended up happening is the podcast itself sort of launched an entire business for me. It launched an entire brand because people who had no idea that I had a podcast were really connecting with this idea that Biz Women Rock. So they really wanted to be part of the brand. So what I found myself doing was becoming the leader of a community and someone who provided education and support for business women all over the world, literally, who wanted to grow their businesses.
So take us through kind of how you were able to wrap your hands around the community. So one of the things you did on Facebook was create a whole gathering? Yeah,
so probably about a month or two after the podcast, my husband had an amazing idea to, I rarely give him credit for that, to start a Facebook group, which at the time, back in 2014, they weren't very popular. People weren't really doing much with them. So he started a Facebook group. And I just said, okay, I want a place to kind of gather my listeners. And I also knew that I wanted to get people who were not listening to the show in there so that I could market the show to them. So it grew like gangbusters right away. We definitely had ads to market the group, so people would say, hey, do you want to connect with your fellow businesswomen? And I should say, on the other end of this, I had a really, really active Facebook page at the time. So the page helped in kind of getting people over to the group. So over the past 2+ years, I have been cultivating a really phenomenal group that has over 4,200 women who are very, very active about wanting to really grow their companies. So what I basically do, because thankfully I've had 8+ years of community building experience in the raw here through TBBO, I took everything that I knew about building community and I did that online. So that's where my community lives, is really on this Facebook group.
And can you talk to, because I've asked you many times, hey, you should do a live meetup, and you were very insistent on, I want an online brand.
Yeah.
So can you talk about, you wanted the ease of use of being able to do this at home, so you're not bound to kind of doing physical events all the time. Can you talk about that philosophy?
Yeah, so obviously I sort of came from this experience through my work with TBBO that was like event after event after event, which was amazing and awesome, but we knew that we wanted to start a family, and I knew that it was important for me to have location independence. That's something I really wanted to move towards. I wanted to be able to work from home. I wanted a company that didn't require me physically being somewhere other than wherever I wanted to be. So I was able to start that with the podcast, able to sort of grow that with the entire brand. And so I literally, like, if I get out of my workout clothes throughout the day, like, it's a good day. Like, I'm usually in my workout clothes, like, on conference calls, doing work from my laptop, doing work wherever. So, yeah, it was a very conscious thought. So it's really powerful because, I wanted, like, if I met, I knew how to do in-person stuff, but I wanted the in-person stuff to accentuate the online community that was building, and I wanted to master that.
And I have the unique perspective as a spouse to just tell you that at the foot of our bed is a desk, and like Katie wears a different hat, and when she goes in front of the computer, literally she's consulting with women all over the world that some women that are running multi-million dollar businesses, and it's a whole different world. And it's weird that it's all happening in the bedroom, that, you know, she could wear a different hat, and now there's an international headquarters that she's running right out of that room, you know, so it's just amazing.
You don't see that on my videos, by the way.
Well, yeah, but TBBO, this is the reality of it, right? Yeah. So it's a whole different hat, and she's, you've actually decorated like the corner of the room with some, like, you know, Biz Women Rock stuff, so it looks official, but if you were to scope out, the bed is like 3 feet out away from where she's broadcasting.
I need to say, like,
something? I said something funny?
No, like, we have 2 bedrooms. We have a small place, and the second bedroom used to be my office, which has this amazing whiteboard in it, and so it's now our daughter's room. So yeah, I get stuck in the corner, but yeah.
Now recently you've been using Facebook Live. Can you talk about the explosion of Facebook Live and how that's been helping you with your community building?
Yeah, so I have been such a proponent from the beginning. I teach a lot about community building and utilizing tools like Facebook groups to build a community and to be able to build intimate relationships with people. And one of the sort of foundational things that I really teach is that you have to be known as the leader. You have to show your face. You have to share about who you are. People have to know when they're in that group that you are the leader. And one of the best ways to do that is to do video. So whether it's a pre-recorded video or now kind of the rise of Facebook Live, I have been having a lot of fun with this. I sort of kind of started using it months ago, would just kind of do it here or there. I experimented with a couple series, like I would do like a 3-part series, and you're going to learn these 3 things today, and then tomorrow you're learning these 3 things. I experimented with like Q&A sessions where I would tell people, hey, on this time we're doing a Facebook Live, and it's like business Q&A. So I've done a lot of that. Some of these fun things, that last week I gave myself the challenge to do a Facebook Live every single day. Oops, sorry, I think I just turned that off. You there?
Yeah.
Okay. I gave myself the challenge just to do a Facebook Live every single day just to see what happens. And like, this is stuff I would either just come up with like out of the blue, or I would just get off of a call with a client, and it was like an issue that I keep hearing about with clients. So I knew that more and more women were experiencing this issue. So I would just kind of go with it. And the best piece of advice that I can give that I have discovered is like not to be so organized about it. The beautiful thing about Facebook Live is that you're real and people are going to see that. And so you're going to flub up your words. You're not going to be perfect. I just have a couple bullet points that I know I want to touch upon. And it's given my community a really interesting and cool way to start interacting with me in a live sense. So like they can comment below. I can give them shout outs when they come on. That's really cool. I can reference people as they're coming on. And as you can see, the one on the bottom left where I'm like rubbing my eye, and I had just done a podcast interview and it was horrible. Like, it was a really bad interview. And so I just shared, like, in the moment, like, podcasting sucks sometimes, and here's why. And I gave everyone the rundown of the interview I just had and why it was so bad. I mean, the girl I interviewed was she was texting while she was interviewing with me.
You didn't throw her name under the bus. You just
I did not throw her name under the bus. But I just described about like how this is what just happened during the podcast interview. And so here's what happened is that like the kind of leader that I am is I'm very vulnerable. Like, I share the good and bad about my business journey, and that is part of the reason why my community really connects with me, because they're thinking like, okay, well, if you can have a crappy Monday and still, do some great things, I can do that too. And thank you for being real. So I get that a lot. So I share a lot about the ups and downs of my own journey, and constantly what I get is thank you so much for being real. I needed to hear that today. So
the question I was going to get to that Dave Kaufman has beat me to it. How do you monetize this community? Because I know that's what most people are thinking. How do you monetize? We got all these people. What does the monetization structure look like?
So I'm going to start off by saying it's been a big, giant experiment for 2.5 years.
How does it look like now?
So what it looks like now is that I am a business coach. So I provide coaching services. So and I also have a retreat coming up in November. So my very first like formal in-person event that people are paying for. And so right now people can actually, like, what I'll do is I'll post within the Facebook group saying, hey, here's information about the retreat. I would love to see you. I share with people about my coaching services, giving tons of value in whatever content I'm sharing, and saying, is this something you're struggling with? If so, click on this link and I'll give you a complimentary 25 minutes of my time and let's see if we're a good fit. Let's see if this is something I can help you with. So it's really just making the offer. And then I strategically use my podcast to make sure I'm advertising for my group and for my services as well, so that all my marketing, all the platforms that I'm on, my email, my Facebook group, my Facebook page, and my podcast are all talking about what I do. Because after all the experimenting, I realized I wasn't actually telling people how I could service them. So I had so many people going, I didn't even know that you were a coach. I didn't even know I could do that with you. So yeah, it was a matter of just me speaking it, saying it out loud. Here's what I have. Here's how you can work with me. If this resonates with you, let's talk.
Okay, we're going to thank you, Kate. Let's give a round of applause if you could just move down one. We're going to bring up our next millennial, Danielle Calhoun of Black Sheep Bride. Let's give her a round of applause. Come on up, Danielle. So Danielle, the first question I'm going to ask you is what people are thinking. What is a Black Sheep Bride and how did this come about?
Great question. Black Sheep Bride is a online wedding publication. So it's like a wedding blog. It is devoted to couples, vendors, and products that value giving back. So the whole slogan is weddings.
I have a clip of that. So
Yes.
Talk about this. Talk about the give back, how that works.
What we do is we have a very specific, hyper-targeted niche in the wedding world. 10% of profit, product, or time of all the vendors that participate in our directory has to be dedicated to a nonprofit. So in order for them to even be listed in our Rolodex, per se, for brides to find them or couples to find them, they have to make a pledge up front that they're going to use their business to serve others in some capacity. And I make that very broad because in the service world, I come from a wedding photography role. We donate a lot of our time, our photography skills, to nonprofits and not necessarily our money. So I wanted to make sure that I made it very open for vendors to be able to participate because time is money and money is time.
Your blog is one of the nicest blogs I've ever seen. I mean, you really do a lot of work putting it together.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the monetization of a blog? Because many times we hear about blogging. First off, Black Sheep Bride means so it's brides looking for alternative things, like not the run-of-the-mill, what are we talking about?
The tagline is weddings standing out through making a difference.
So nice.
The goal is that the couples that are looking to have a wedding that's not just one big fancy party full of trashed people, and they have intention and they have purpose and they want their marriage to be founded on love and sacrifice ultimately. So when I first started Black Sheep Bride, I reached out to some of my vendor peers and I said, I have this kind of crazy idea. And I told them what I wanted to do, and they said, you're absolutely nuts. The wedding industry is not going to take the bait. You're crazy. And I said, then I guess I'll have to be the black sheep. And then it just
that's how Black Sheep Bride. How cool is that? That's a great story.
Thank you.
Now talk about the growth of your numbers. I love how you show it with black sheep, but your traffic has really grown. I guess the message that you're putting out there really resonates out in the marketplace.
Well, like Katie said, I am also a person of authenticity, and probably to a fault, I have a very transparent brand and a voice in everything that I share on social media and on my blog. And those projections were started at the beginning of 2016, and they are not accurate for this year. However, this has been very huge for me because when I started Black Sheep Bride, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And it just kind of took like wildfire in a way that I wasn't anticipating. So between 2014 and 2015, I was able to, that has a typo there. Excuse that. I was able to bring on vendors from across the nation. So when we first started, we had kind of a pilot group. They got to join for a lifetime membership rate, and there was about 40 of them at the time. And then we transitioned into an annual vendor membership rate, and now we are up to about a little under 200 vendors across the nation.
200 vendors, wow.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk about some of the monetization? You had sent me, your PDF packet, and I found it really interesting. And this is something you don't really see too often. So talk about how your site actually generates income.
So the main way that we generate income is definitely through vendor memberships. In order for them to be listed on our blog, they have to take the pledge that they're going to give back, but they also have to pay an annual cost because I have kids to feed. So I definitely have to get paid.
Absolutely.
The other things that kind of came into play were honestly on accident. Our Instagram is definitely our biggest social media platform. We have over 15,000 people on our Instagram, and it's probably the most engaged. And it was with zero effort on my part, to be clear. I just try and post once, twice a day. I'm not dedicated. I have a very unstructured business plan. I'm probably not a good speaker for this type of thing.
No, but you have it all in writing here. I've never seen that, which is great.
I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, how can I get my product shared on your Instagram? And over time, I was like, hey, I could monetize this. So I started sharing features and being able to connect with those brands that were interested in advertising and using the influence of my platform to promote their brands.
Danielle, you generate around $4,000 a month from the blog or somewhere in that ballpark?
I would say annually we generate about $30,000 to $40,000.
I mean, that's really great on a blog. So it's a lot of work, you know.
A lot of work, yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the boys next in the essence of time. Thank you, Danielle. Let's give Danielle a round of applause. Thank you so much. So if you guys move 2 down. We're going to bring up Joe Malinowski. Joe likes to drink, so he was hanging at the bar. Joe and John Dennis, come on up, guys. Let's give them a round of applause.
I can hold that book if you want me to.
And John, that's yours. So, Joe, you talk about. We're going to go with the two of you because I want people are asking questions. I want to make sure we get their questions. Talk about the awesome brand. You created a brand of awesomeness. How did that come about?
So a little over 3 years ago, or about 2.5, 3 years ago, in 2013, I wanted to do some consulting for cities, and then I went to some of the cities' marketing meetings, and then I was like, I don't want to deal with any RFPs and all this other crap that goes along with doing stuff with them. So I just was like, I'm just going to go build what I want to build, because I thought it needed to be done, and I wanted to kind of test out if our ideas worked. So we started the Downtown Tampa's Awesome page, and then just started building out a bunch of stuff. But I kind of looked at, all of the stuff that you see in TBBO and e-marketing groups, and kind of just looked at, I wanted to develop another little lifestyle-like business. So when I looked at, my skill sets was, really building large audiences, identifying different monetization opportunities, and then building, website funnels and creating strategic relationships. And then I figured, what do I really like to do? Well, I like hanging out with people. I like to eat and drink. I like to go to events. And I had one more thing on that list.
Oh, sorry, drink beer.
Yeah.
I thought was one.
Think of cool ways to promote stuff. So it just kind of started this idea out of Downtown Tampa's Awesome. Can you go to the video?
Yeah, you want? We'll play the video.
So
Anthony, we're gonna play a quick
The first
video.
thing that my buddy and I did, if anyone watched the Colbert Report, he did this thing called Coachella in 2013, where he danced through a whole bunch of sets, like through America's Got Talent, through Jimmy Kimmel, through all this stuff. So
Tell me when, buddy.
Yeah, I did this video to kind of start building the relationship with people in downtown Tampa. And it's basically 4 minutes of me being ridiculous with like every business in downtown. And we're actually not. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I fell down after this one. I stumbled off and I fell into the wall. But yeah, it's like you definitely don't play the whole thing. It's like, it's got over like 7,000 or 8,000 views now, which is kind of cool. But this is what we started putting together before we had any audience. We had like 2,000 people following us, and we're just thinking, how do we get people to pay attention to what we're doing? So I spent, 2 months, creating relationships. I mean, you hit up a place of business and say, hey, I want to come dance with your staff. Can I come in? And they're just like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And mind you, none of
But everybody
those,
said yes, right?
There's actually no music. We're not dancing to music. I'm just like,
Oh,
what
you're
do
just
I do?
dancing?
I'm like, just be a lunatic for like 10 seconds and I'll be out of here. So that just helped us develop all these relationships, and we kind of got accepted, and then we started building a bunch of other pages out. So it started with downtown, and then we set up the Ebor and the South Tampa page.
So these are all Facebook pages, because people are wondering what pages you're talking about.
Yeah,
Facebook
these are all
pages.
Facebook pages. It's about a little over 200,000+ people now.
So you have over 200,000 likes on all these local pages, right?
Yeah. And outside of Facebook, we have Instagram and Twitter and everything, but off of Facebook, it's just Tampa Bay, because that would be an absurd amount of profiles to
So,
manage.
Joe, the question that Dave is asking me, I know telepathically, is how do you generate income?
There we go. Next slide, please. So it evolved. You know, when I started it up, it really just wanted to kind of prove the different ideas that we had worked. I knew I could do some sponsorship from it. It's consistently evolving. That's the coolest part about the online business sides of things is if you're working on something that you're excited about, you know, when you're not getting paid, it just doesn't suck as much. You figure out different things that happen. So the first thing that was obviously like sponsorship, but we didn't even set up that right out of the gates. I mean, it was probably 6 to 8 months because we didn't have enough of an audience. I mean, we had 4,000 or 5,000 people in the first 90 days. So I waited to get one of the pages up to about 10 or 20,000, and then we started doing sponsorship. And then from there, we had some relationships with some realtors. So then we're like, all right, let's try to do some real estate posts and see how that goes. And then we started creating like 200 or 300 leads a month. We're like, great, we can make plenty of money doing that. So now we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of like 80 or 90 sponsors that pay us every month. We've got a real estate
So kind of like what Danielle was saying, they're sponsored posts. They kind of pay you to post?
No, I have them as just flat sponsors. So they're all paying me monthly. And we tag them in stuff. We post about them. I mean, we're doing it anyways. We're talking about the restaurants and bars and businesses and all the fun stuff anyways. Why not figure out a way to consistently get paid? So it's all reoccurring revenue.
How much revenue would you say that generates for the 80 or 90?
That generates a little around $2,000 a month. Then real estate.
Then you have real estate leads, which is separate.
Which is separate from that. And then we recently launched beer. Barley Mo is an awesome brewery, and they made us awesome beer. So we're figuring that out. We kind of stole that idea from another concept up in Destin and kind of just retooled what they did. And Sven and I partnered up, worked on that beer. We partnered up on these Best of Tampa Bay books. It's a whole other revenue stream that's really elevated the different opportunities that we have to monetize and then build awesome in other places all around the states and all around the country and in different countries. I mean, the book's in 60 countries. We've now got awesome pages all over the world.
So, Joe, what you did was you stumbled on something where local pride, people want to know that where they live is awesome. You were able to siphon that brand equity into now physical products as well as people that want to. You have 80, 90 vendors that pay you monthly just to, from now time to time, to be featured on your platforms. Is that correct?
Absolutely. But it's evolved into other stuff. I mean, go to one more slide. So Awesome Concepts is a company that I set up just because we have all these different ideas and we figured out how to monetize them. So Nurses and Merces is a concept that one of Chris's and I friends set up a little right when I set up Downtown Tampa's Awesome. He's a nurse. He built it to about 70,000 people and just not figuring out how to monetize it. So we took it over. We built it to 150,000 people, and now we generate a ton of travel nursing leads. So when we get these leads in, we give them to a recruiter. Everyone that closes, we get $500. So we create 5 or 10 of those a day. They're cranking out, so that's been awesome. Affiliate sales and ad revenue. But the one thing that will hopefully roll out a little bit closer to the podcast workshop is the affiliate marketing kind of platform that we're building with the Awesome Concepts brand. It's going to be called RevSpread, and it's just, if I ever had $1 million idea, like that is the one that's going to be just super awesome. So we're excited and always got cool people to bounce ideas off of.
And your backstory, some people might know you, some might not. You were consulting individuals from time to time. You had a consulting practice, and you're like, man, I got to use what I'm telling them to create my own stuff. And that's kind of how you stumbled onto the Awesome brand, right?
Yeah, the idea always was, before Mark and I started working together and doing consulting, was I always wanted to build more online stuff, which I had, but I was kind of still figuring it out. So consulting kind of supplemented it, and then building my own concepts kind of fell by the wayside. So now I just consistently ramped those up while I was consulting, and now it's like, all right, we're just going to go crazy with this and crush it and really kind of get some of the more mailbox money thing going on. So it's all about having fun.
Do you ever get tired of using the word awesome?
I don't think so. I really appreciate it. Like people,
it's a good drinking game. Anytime Joe talks, take a shot when he says
you
awesome.
Will be wasted. I'm like saved in different people's phone. They come up and I see them when they're calling me and it says like Joe Awesome. I'm like, that's so cool. It makes me feel better.
That is cool if your name's synonymous
awesome.
with awesome. Yeah. Next up, what I'll do is you have some resources and we'll go over that later. I want to bring up John Dennis. John came all the way from West Palm Beach, and his beautiful wife Christina. He just flew in actually from San Diego. Now you have an interesting story. You actually launched your online digital agency via a podcast. Can you talk about kind of the strategy of how you did that? And you didn't get small clients. I mean, you've got some Fortune 500 clients, really large clients from it. Tell us about that story, how you started that.
Yeah, so it's been about 2.5 years now I've been in business with my current iteration of the agency. I started an agency back in late 2000, late 2007, early 08, and that kind of failed. I mismanaged money and kind of rested on my laurels and thought everything was great. And so with the second iteration, I knew that we live in a noisy world, and I had to do something a little different. I couldn't expect to just launch a business that it's just going to take off. So I wanted to give it the best chance. I knew that podcasting was taking off. I also knew that I had a lot of knowledge in this area. I did consider myself an expert in digital marketing, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give my expertise away, every ounce of it, as much as I possibly could. I didn't hold back whatsoever. And as Chris pointed out, it landed me a couple of really high-profile clients. And once you get a few high-profile clients, I mean, it just snowballs from there, as long as you provide results.
Out of curiosity, how many months of savings did you have before you picked up a client when you started your podcast? Like before you were out of money?
How many? Oh, yeah. What was that, honey? About 3-4 months?
So you had 3-4 months to make it a go, to build this online agency, and you were able to do it.
Yeah. Back was against the wall, you could say.
And the way we met John is his podcast came out at the same time as Katie's. So we were always competing for the #1 spot, and I just kept bumping him off every time. And then he was saying, who are these people bumping me off on the other side of Florida? And literally we were just alternating day in, day out, and you were probably wondering, like, what is
That's right.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny. He had the online platform, and I had the ground and pound. But that's how we met each other, because it was like, what are you doing? What are we doing? And then we all met a few years back. So, John, you've advised quite a few people. You've done really well. You actually started a group online. You don't make money on this, but can you talk about why you started this group? Because I think it talks about the millennial mindset.
You know, I have a love and an affinity towards the podcasting community, just because of what podcasting did for my business, and I wanted to share that experience and foster that community as much as I possibly could. So I started the Podcasters Hangout, as it says, where podcast enthusiasts hang out, for it to be a place, a community where people who had launched podcasts or who were interested in launching podcasts could come for 100% free advice, who could count on not being pitched a product every day, and who knew that it was against the rules for other people to pitch them and share their businesses and all that crap. It was purely to foster valuable conversations in this community.
And how big is this group now? This is on Facebook, by the way. And where is it now?
You know, as Chris said, I was just in San Diego for an event I co-organized, and while I was away, it crossed 5,000 members.
So it's one of the largest groups in the world. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So here's the concept that, John, you're like on the cutting edge, social selling. Can you tell us about social selling and what that means? Because everybody's trying to fit the old box into the new box, and it does not work as far as the way millennials think and behave.
I think one of the reasons why we're so successful at our agencies is because we don't follow the norm. We don't have a cookie cutter approach towards creating results for our clients. In other words, we don't go to people and say, this is the template that works. We go and we look at what's worked before, if anything has worked for our clients, and we'll modify and improve upon things that have worked, and of course introduce new concepts and other things that have proven to work for other clients and the experience that we have. And one of the things that Chris just pointed out that's worked really well lately is social selling. We just got done with a product launch. It was an info product, so it's consumed online entirely. In 14 days, we reproduced over $200,000 in sales solely from social selling. So how it works is, who here is familiar with the webinar model? Raise your hand if you're
I think all of us have been on a
cool.
webinar too, right?
So traditionally, as you might expect, you go on a webinar, you get about 80% value, 20% pitch, and during the offer pitch, your call to action is to go to a page to purchase whatever it is they're selling. In the case of the example I just gave, we instead of driving people to a cart page, we drove people to Facebook. We simply said, send me a message if this is something you're interested. We did want to pre-qualify buyers. Now, most people were qualified, but it wasn't expensive. It was a high-ticket offer. And so we sent people to Facebook Messenger And we said, send us a message if you're interested. We'd like to have a conversation with you before we determine if you'd be a good fit. And if you're a good fit, we'll give you next steps. And we exceeded $200,000 in sales as a result.
So explain, I have one of your clients who's a millennial is she out of Australia or New Zealand?
She's from New Zealand. She's a Kiwi.
So the new iteration of how this works is you have maybe a Facebook Live or something where you could then interact on the instant messenger.
Correct. Yes. And this is a client that we just did this launch for, and we've exceeded 1.7 million in her business this year already. Doing a lot of social selling, but our last launch was the one I was just talking about. So. Yes,
and this is like, you're not going to, I don't hear anyone talk about social selling. Everybody's still talking about the webinar, but this is what's coming out. And I appreciate you sharing it because I know it's done well for your agency, but sharing it with all of us.
Yeah.
Can you talk about this event that you did, Thrive, and why it's been so influential? It's very similar to what Danielle is doing.
Yeah, I wanted to say kudos to you, Danielle, for your model. I wholeheartedly believe in what you were talking about with regards to giving back. This is Thrive, Make Money Matter. It's the name of the conference. We just held this in San Diego the 28th through the 30th. And it is about making money. So we give real-world strategies on how to make money, but more importantly, how to make money matter. What we really teach, and just to be clear and transparent, I'm a co-organizer of this event. This is a brainchild of a really good friend of mine. His name is Cole Hatter. But what we really teach is how to align your business with a for-purpose anything, whether that be an entity, whether that be aligning with a charity, whether that be creating your own charity or entity that gives back. And so we had some amazing speakers. Jack Canfield, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series. We had John Assaraf, who was featured in The Secret. We had Luis D. Ortiz from Bravo's hit TV show.
The $1 Million Listing, right?
$1 Million Listing.
Can you talk about the choice that you and Cole had to make behind the scenes for the call to action at the end, which is every promoter has to deal with that, but what happened? Because that's a normal thing that happens.
Yeah, I was telling Chris on the phone the other day. You know, we were sitting backstage, and Jack Canfield was our last speakers on stage for about 2 hours, blowing away the audience with some amazing content. And we had there was about 15 minutes left. And Cole sits down next to me and goes, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So we're selling products, opportunities for people to come down to Mexico with us to give back to some communities in Mexico, particularly an orphanage that Cole has, as well as some high-level mastermind opportunities for people to buy. You know, we obviously the goal is to not operate at a loss. You know, we at least want to break even on this. And we were just shy of that. And so Cole sits down and he says, I don't know what to do. You know, we're here to benefit Pencils of Promise, which is a nonprofit. We aligned ourselves with a nonprofit, put our money where our mouth was, of course. And we wanted to build a school. We'd already built one, but we wanted to build another. And schools cost $35,000. And so we said, he came, he sat down, he said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if we should, if I should, go out there and sell the heck out of Connect.
Which is a product. Which is the product to sell,
which is the
right?
mastermind, yeah. Or if I should promote the school. And he already knew what he was going to do. He just needed that confirmation. And so I told him what I thought. And he went and promoted school. In under 15 minutes, we had raised enough to build a school from within the audience of 600.
So you guys raised enough money to build a school?
Enough money to build a school. That's correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
Great. If you could pass it to Katie. So this is a question from Shelley Walk. This is a great question. This is for everybody here. How many hours a week do you work on your business, and how many in your business? Very good, Shelley. Katie?
All right, so my working on your business is very strategic, meaning I can't say that like I schedule it throughout the week, but I will do things like I took myself on a Katie retreat about 3 months ago, and where I just stopped everything and for 2 days straight worked on my business, and that gets me through what I need to do to work in my business and make those things happen, and then I'll have pockets of that. So I can't say that I strategically put it in my calendar every week.
So Katie, how many hours, this is straightforward, how many hours do you work in your business, and then on your business you could ballpark it? Just quick math, guys.
Let's say probably 2 to 3 hours a week.
What,
I work
working
on my business.
And how many hours in the business? They want to know how long it takes to do all the stuff you're just talking about.
How many hours are in a week? I work, let's just say, somewhere between 24 to 35 hours a week.
Okay.
Because on Wednesday, Fridays, I'm mommy.
All right. Danielle?
I would have to agree with that. I'd say it's probably about 5 hours a day-ish.
5 hours for the website? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then that also includes social sharing and things like that.
Okay. Joe, how many hours you work on the Awesome brand? Nice and close.
Yeah, I have no idea. I spent probably 4 hours on Monday just making sure that everything's set up for the rest of the week and the plans and the organization. And then the rest of the week, I mean, you know, you have like 10 restaurants that want you to come and meet with them and do videos. I mean, so it's really just like going and eating all day. So sometimes you just end up getting stuck there. And then really, it should be more, when am I working on going to the gym and making sure that I'm not just picking out all day. But it's all fun. So, you know, 30 hours. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but how many hours a week do you work on the Awesome brand?
Like on it and like really working on the strategy behind it and the planning behind it, I would say between like 5 and 10, and then the rest is just the fun of doing it.
Well, how long does that
take? And it could be, you know, one day I might be out. I was out on Friday from 8:30 a.m. I didn't get home till 11. I mean, I went from
for parties,
coffee shop to coffee shop, meeting people, and then restaurant to restaurant, doing like drink tastings and food tastings.
So you don't consider that work, is what you're saying?
It's work. I mean, I have to shoot videos. I'm shooting the videos for them. They're sponsors.
Do you get to dance and do cartwheels and stuff like that? Yeah.
What's that?
You do those cartwheels? Is that?
I don't do cartwheels anymore. That's dangerous.
You retired that?
Too
John,
much eating.
John, I know you work a lot of hours because John has a digital agency. You represent a lot of brands.
60 to 70 hours a week. Recently, about 10 of those on my business. I'm a little unique in my situation, whereas we're an agency, so we work in the business a lot, serving our clients. But I've recently been working on one of my own products, and that's taken about 10 hours a week or so.
So this is a question for Joe, Danielle, Katie, Shelley, thank you for this. This is a great one. Have you guys ever considered if your business, if it's sellable, like determine the value? So Joe, is this something you could sell?
So the cool thing that we've been working on, I'm going to say yes. I mean, so Sven and I are working between the Best of the Bay books. Since we've done these in other countries, we know that model works. We know that it works here. So we've got the people that had built these books in other countries, because they'll do them every 2 or 3 years, utilizing the model that we've kind of created and figure out how to monetize. So we have Cape Town is awesome. That's got 40,000 people. So now they're building sponsorship. So we're almost positioning it in like a licensing kind of agreement.
So you could sell the licensing of it, I guess?
Selling the concept of it. I mean, we're going to invest our own money right now building those different pages and then having our partner in that location build it out. So, yeah.
Danielle, with Black Sheep Bride, can you, it's a blog, I'm assuming you could sell that, right?
Definitely. That was kind of the goal from the beginning.
Have you been offered from people to buy it?
I've had investor opportunities, but not necessarily with the buyout in mind, but that was kind of a long-term goal. Niche wedding blogs are always high-ticket sales items for the wedding world, so.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Katie?
Yeah, so yes, I have thought about it. I deliberately have Biz Women Rock as, you know, an umbrella brand. It's not called Katie Krimitsos for a reason. And even though I am sort of synonymous with the brand, another really great leader can succeed me and take over that brand. And it can be built into other things that are in line with someone taking that over. So yes.
Okay, this next question is for John. This is a good one. Joel, thanks for asking this. Is Facebook selling an automated process or manual? So that social selling process of people doing the instant message, how can, I guess people kind of wonder, how can you scale it if you have a lot of people coming at you at the same time?
Hire
right,
people.
Joel? Say that again?
Hire people.
So you need multiple people to handle?
Yeah. What we do is we have a team of people ready to answer questions on one account, of course. People who obviously learn our clients' voices, you know. I will say, too, how many of you, by show of hands, have leveraged Facebook advertising in your businesses? Cool. If you're not, you're leaving money on the table. There's a lot of money being left on the table.
So that leads us to a question for you, John. It says, do you work with small businesses, and what is your best advice for small businesses with limited budgets to make the most of that money?
as it pertains to Facebook
I
advertising?
think Facebook ads, or what would you recommend? I know
Yeah.
it depends on the individual, but general advice.
I'd have to know more about the business because it's, like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. I would really recommend, however, everyone look into Facebook advertising. It's highly leverageable for almost any kind of business. You can target down to the zip code. You can target down to the type of car somebody is driving. And one thing as it pertains to social selling, Facebook has started rolling this out as of late April of this year. Most accounts have access to it now if you've advertised on Facebook. And if you don't have access to it, you should have access to this.
To what?
To this before the end of the year. And that is an option to run ads. And when people click on the ad, instead of it going to a website, it opens up Messenger.
Really?
And you can have
you
a
could talk
conversation
directly.
with the business. And so if you're
Wow.
if you're a local business and you have an offer of some sort, whether you're a lawyer or a dry cleaning place or whatever, you provide a service or a product, whatever, or a restaurant, you could say, as a resident of Tampa Bay, we're given 20% off on your first visit to XYZ. Click here to claim that offer. And it opens up a Facebook Messenger conversation. And now you can actually code this to auto reply based on a set of answers your prospect provides. That gets a little complicated. But the easiest way to make this work is to just have somebody ready to reply within 24 hours on your business page.
That's amazing. Have you guys heard of that
Yeah.
before? I haven't. That's awesome. Okay, so this is one of the last questions we'll ask. We'll start with Katie. Now, we've heard a lot about Facebook. Alex is asking, is that the main source of your social media, I guess, reach? Are you using any of the other platforms, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest? So if you guys could just tell us kind of percentage-wise, where does most of your following come from? And then what are the other platforms that really help you generate, your community?
Yes, most of my social time is spent on Facebook. I would say 100% of my time, because I don't like being on any of I don't enjoy Twitter. I really don't love LinkedIn. And I'm a big believer that I'm not going to try to be everything to everyone. So I focus my attention on where I like to be, and I'm going to optimize that as much as possible. Biz Women Rock has a presence on those other platforms, but I'm really not there.
Right. The other communication medium you use is podcasting. So those are your two legs.
Yeah.
Danielle, how about you?
Definitely Instagram. It's probably a 90-10 split. Instagram.
90% Instagram for you?
10%
Wow.
Facebook.
Interesting. Okay, Joseph?
Probably the opposite, 90% Facebook. We're starting to really ramp up our Instagram.
So you're about 10%?
Definitely, yeah.
So 90-10 for you? Mm-hmm. John, I know you deal with different clients, so anything you want to say to that as far as the different platforms?
Yeah, personally 90% Facebook, but I would say it really depends on your business. We have clients who are doing 90% Twitter, others doing 90% LinkedIn, some are 100% Instagram, Yeah, I would say it depends on the business. And just, you don't need to be everywhere, at once, but really determine where your ideal prospects are. And if you're serving anyone between the ages of 30 to 55, really look at Facebook. If you're serving people between the ages of 15 and 30, 15 and 25, look at Instagram, look at Snapchat, believe it or not, really look at Snapchat. And if you're serving anyone between the ages of, I'd say about 25 to 35, maybe 40, you would want to look at Twitter. And of course, then it also depends to what type of business you have.
Sure.
But generally, in terms of age demographics, it's what you want to look at.
And LinkedIn is more the professional.
LinkedIn's professional,
looking for jobs.
typically
That's
30 and up. Yeah.
The B2B type side.
B2B and mainly corporate driven.
Any of you using Pinterest? Someone asked?
Yeah, that's good.
Not. Okay.
You might find some results on Pinterest.
This
by the way.
question is for the ladies as well as Joseph. Did you strategically monetize the opportunities, or did you wait until something took off? Or did it happen organically, the monetization? And this question's coming from Missy.
It was a lot of trial and error. So I would ask my community a lot. I do a lot of like test market, like what do you guys think? What do you guys need? Is this something you would like? So I would ask them and then go create it, and it wasn't necessarily taking off. Or I would just say, oh my God, I love to do this, so I'm going to create it, and it's so important for me, and then I would try it and see if it would take off. So a lot of it was like trial by error and trying to figure out. I launched an entire retreat because I had this idea. I didn't necessarily ask people if they wanted it. I just was like, I'm going to do this. I feel like it's what people would want. And to my massive surprise, the VIP ticket sold out in a week. I was like, oh, okay, apparently people want that. So that was just a try, like, let me try that. Let me see if that works. And it did. So that tells me every single time I try something, it tells me more and more what people like, what people don't like.
And how much was your VIP ticket?
They were $997.
$997, not $9.90. Okay. Danielle?
I definitely think that at first I had a vision and it pivoted very quickly. I thought that I would be strictly vendor memberships, and then as I saw people showing interest in our other platforms, I created the opportunities for them to generate revenue that way as well.
So because you were paying attention to what they were asking you.
Yeah.
And that's how you created that page I showed earlier, which I'll go back to it.
Correct.
But the different opportunities, because they were asking you, hey, do you do Instagram posts, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. And it's actually a very tricky market because from a wedding perspective, it's very common to do paid advertising. But from a social enterprise perspective, they get a lot of free PR.
Right.
So it has been definitely trial and error, but the people that value what we're trying to target definitely drop the dollars.
This is something that everybody's thinking. How do you keep the integrity of your brand when it comes to people paying for posts?
I definitely qualify the people that ask to pay. There have been instances where I've told people, I just don't think this is a good fit.
So you just make sure it's a cultural fit, and if it is, it's a lot easier for you to do it.
And what I mean by that is that their business didn't necessarily give back. They weren't ethical. They weren't a sustainable brand. They had zero corporate responsibility.
Right, so they weren't aligned with your values.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Joseph, how about because I know you wanted to go for bigger dollars in the beginning, and then you pivoted, and that's how you found this niche.
Yeah, awesome kind of modify, because I figured after we built the audiences that then the cities and people would be like, oh, well, we'll support you, and they still didn't care. So we were just, all right, how are we going to get
and
more
Joe, let me talk about this for a second. I would send Joe to every contact I had because I was like, how would they not want to invest money in what this kid's doing? Because the social reach he was doing and the impact he was having in the local community was amazing, but they just were spending their money in the local areas, and then you had to figure out how to monetize.
Well, it's not that. I mean, they don't not care what we're doing at all. I mean, but they're paying people on staff to do what we're doing, and we're just doing it a lot better than they are.
Right.
So that's, and that's totally, but it's understandable. I mean, it's a government thing. There's a lot of people, the politics behind it. So, I mean, we went from really investing a lot of time in creating those relationships, hoping they'd pan out, which actually right now, 3 years later, there's been all these regime changes, and now they all are like super open and really cool people to work with, and, so we're tinkering a little bit there, but everything else, continues to evolve. I mean, we just launched beer this year. We just launched merchandising this year. Spen and I, partnered up this year and started doing these books. The things continue to evolve. I mean, the one thing with nurses and nurses, like that has been, it took us 8 months or 6 months to figure out how to like crazy generate these nursing leads. We were trying things after things, and then we just stumbled upon one stupid idea that we're like, hey, let's try this. And then the floodgates opened, and we had like 400 leads coming in a month. We're like, all right, let's keep doing that. And let's ramp that up and try to do, we can close 87 leads a month. That's $1 million a year. How many leads do we need to create for that? So creating those relationships. Everything's constantly in evolution. I mean, the coolest thing with all these businesses is it's, seeing a journey that I've kind of experienced a little bit with Chris over the last 8 or 10 years is everything that we've learned and we've seen people talk about is kind of ramped up and now become this software that we're developing and implementing all the tools and ideas at the right time. It sucks to look back and think sometimes like, ooh, if I created these awesome pages like 4 years earlier, like I wanted to do, they could be at like 500,000 or 1 million people. But it's not. Everything's always been the perfect timing. Spen and I met at the TBBO conference in the beginning of this year, which was the perfect timing for helping curate this book and launch other books. So, just been super
Now, when are
excited.
you going to have free sampling of your beer?
So at our party on the 18th, we were going to have awesome beer there. Touch Vodka made us a vodka, so we're going to have.
So that's awesome vodka.
We haven't decided on the name of it yet, but it's a what is it? A honey and orange vodka that's going on. Kombucha wants to make us a kombucha. So all types of cool like private labeling products.
Awesome. So we're transitioning.
So mark your calendars, November 18th. We'll send you all invites.
We'll put it out on the member forum. So this is the last question for each of you. It's literally all I'm looking for is a sentence. This is the millennials. What do you consider? What do you think, in your own words, is a millennial? What is like a millennial mindset? So let's start with Katie, and then John, you'll close it out. So Katie, what do you think constitute a millennial or a millennial mindset?
I would just say that you are willing to take the action to make your life free. Because I consider the fact, I feel like I have a free life. I can do what I want, when I want. I work my butt off to make that happen. So I'm willing to do that. So I consider a millennial somebody who works for their freedom.
Okay. Yeah, and there's no right or wrong. I'm just curious what you guys think, is a millennial. There's no right or wrong answer to that.
I think the biggest takeaway from millennials for me whenever I talk to vendors is that they thrive in very authentic environments. So if you're marketing one particular way and it's not very authentic and it's the way that you've been doing it for 10 years, it's probably not going to work for millennials. They want to know how you're spending your money, where it's going. If they're investing in you, how are you investing in others? So very open transparency.
Joseph?
I didn't know we were millennials until I saw the email you sent out. I thought we were past that. Yeah, we're on the tail end of it. Just not really open to like the 9 to 5 thing. I've kind of felt like I've been an unemployable person since I was 19 or 20. I'm like, I am a terrible employee.
Which is true, and many people have known you since you're 19. Yeah.
Sven and I were at meetings today, and we walked into an office that had like a bunch of cubicles, and people were like, "That's where they go every day, and they make calls every day." I'm just like, I would explode. I have no idea how this works. So I think the unwillingness to
non-conformist.
I don't even know if it's conforming. I think it's just almost, I don't want to say settling, but like not really just going for something that's exciting. But they don't teach you how to run after something you're excited about in school. They teach you how to be a
John?
As he just said that, I was like, I don't really agree with that, but I do. I was a general manager of a restaurant previous life, and we did really well. I mean, we were a top performer in our company of over 130 locations. But the entire time, every single day I ran that restaurant, I would look outside and wish I had my own business. And I knew that was no means to an end for me. So maybe that's a millennial thing. I will say, too, your income is directly proportionate to the amount of offers you put into the marketplace. I think millennials understand that really, really well. I also think that, as Danielle pointed out, we live in a much more authenticity-driven marketplace. Like terms like fake it till you make it, personally I see that as bullshit. I just don't. We don't work with anybody who's of that mindset. We're very clear on that. We do a good job of weeding out the people who are kind of fake and who just want to fake it till they make it. I think it's a lot harder to fake it till you make it these days. I think people are able to see who you're really about. We've got social media. Everything you post is public, and people will eventually find out your clients, your prospects, and everyone you're networked with.
I have to tell you, we've done a lot of platforms, but this has been one of the most eye-opening, having actually people, right? And seeing how you guys have done things instead of having an expert about millennials. Why don't we have millennials that have done something? What I have heard today, just over and over, because I always pay attention, experience was a word that was used like 20 times. Awesome, we're going to take out of the equation because Joe used it over. Honesty and truth in advertising. Authenticity. And kind of nonconformity, kind of like a little outside the box. And I've always said this when it comes to, let's say, millennials. I really go by the term millennial mindset. I think most of TBBO, if you look at it, a millennial mindset of people, we think differently. That's why we all get together here to learn, while probably the rest of the world's watching the World Series or getting ready for it. So I want to thank you guys for coming out. John, thank you for flying back from San Diego and then driving up with your family. His beautiful wife, Christina, and Connor are here. Guys, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. You can hold on to it.